The dojo smelled of sweat, polish, and pride, the air alive with the rhythm of strikes and the echo of shouts demanding perfection. Beneath the harsh fluorescent lights, fists cracked against pads, bare feet thudded on the mat, and every movement carried the pulse of discipline. At the center stood Greg Dawson, tall, broad-shouldered, and every inch the image of a martial arts champion. His black belt gleamed, his voice commanded. To his students, he was untouchable, a living embodiment of power and precision. Revered by many, feared by some, everyone respected Greg, everyone, except the janitor. Every morning before class began, an older black man named Samuel arrived quietly. He mopped the floors, wiped mirrors, and polished the trophies that bore other people's names. He never interrupted, never lingered. Just moved silently, methodically, his every motion deliberate, as if even cleaning was an art. To Greg, Samuel was invisible. Worse, a convenient punchline. "Make sure you don't end up like him," Greg would joke, nodding towards Samuel while students snickered. "Fast hands are good for mopping, too." Laughter filled the dojo. Samuel would only smile faintly, eyes calm, saying nothing. That silence, that quiet composure, bothered Greg more than he'd ever admit. He mistook humility for weakness. He thought respect was something earned through fear, not given through honor. He had no idea who Samuel really was. Weeks later, the dojo buzzed with excitement. Greg was hosting his biggest event yet. A martial arts exhibition packed with local fighters, students, families, and even a few retired legends. Cameras flashed. Energy roared. Greg strutted through the crowd like a man owning his kingdom. On the edge of all that noise, Samuel continued working, mopping up sweat between matches, collecting towels, unseen as always. Then chaos struck. The event's guest demonstrator, a famous fighter, got stranded when his car broke down. The organizers panicked. The schedule had a gap and the crowd was restless. "We need someone to fill in," one man muttered. An elderly visitor raised his hand slowly. "I know someone," he said. "Let him show you." He pointed straight at Samuel. The room froze. Then came the laughter. Greg turned, smirking. "Him? The janitor? What's he going to do? Show us how to wax the floor faster?" More laughter. But the old man didn't laugh. His tone was calm, unwavering. "You should let him show you," he said. Greg folded his arms, confident, his voice dripping arrogance. "Fine. Let's give our janitor his moment." Samuel set down his mop. He stretched slowly, his back straightening as though shaking off years of pretending. He stepped barefoot onto the mat, and the room changed. Every motion was different now. The way he bowed, the stillness in his eyes. It was like the air thickened around him. The laughter died. Greg attacked first, a casual jab meant to entertain the crowd. But in a blink, Samuel's body shifted like water. One motion, one blur. Greg was on the ground, pinned, Samuel's hand hovering inches from his throat. Gasps filled the dojo. The proud instructor who mocked him now stared up in shock, his ego shattered in front of his own students. Samuel released him gently, helping him up with steady hands. "Respect," he said softly. Then he bowed. The crowd erupted, not in mockery but awe. Some clapped, others whispered. A few lowered their heads, ashamed of their laughter. One student whispered, "Who is he?" The elderly visitor stepped forward, his smile carrying decades of memory. "That," he said, "is Samuel Price, 9th degree black belt, former world champion, founder of one of the first inclusive dojos in this country. He trained masters while others were still learning to bow." Silence. Then Greg's face turned pale. The truth hit him like a punch he never saw coming. The man he'd mocked wasn't a janitor out of necessity. He was a legend who'd chosen humility. A man who had paved the path Greg now walked, quietly, without credit, without applause. After the event, Greg waited by the door, guilt heavy in his chest. When Samuel approached, Greg opened his mouth to apologize, but Samuel simply raised a hand. "It's not about who's stronger," he said softly. "It's about who remembers what strength is for." Greg lowered his head. The words sank deeper than any strike ever could. Days later, the dojo looked different. Greg began coming in early, sweeping the mats, polishing mirrors, repairing equipment. His students noticed. When one asked, "Why are you doing the janitor's job?" Greg just smiled faintly. "Because respect," he said, "isn't taught, it's practiced." Months later, Samuel returned, this time not to clean, but to teach. Together they stood side by side before the class. The master who once mopped the floor and the student who had learned to see. No cameras, no applause, just quiet bows of understanding, because sometimes the truest masters don't shout commands. They whisper lessons through humility, and sometimes the man you think is beneath you is the one who came before you.